Fruits that develop from an inflorescence are called as multiple fruits. Seed is defined as a post-fertilization product of ovule. A seed which has two cotyledons is called as a dicot seed. Moving on to the session 12 of chapter 5 called Morphology of Flowering Plants. Myself, B. Shobharani from the Department of Biology, Vidyashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence. So what did we learn in the last session? Hope you can see the continuing part of the last session, that is about the fruits. So you have already studied what is a fruit. Fruit is nothing but a ripened ovary. And we studied about the three types of fruit, that is the true fruit, false fruit, and the parthenocarpic fruits. So I think this classification of fruits will give you an idea like as to what are fruits. So fruits can be again broadly classified into three types, that is the simple fruits, aggregate fruits, and multiple fruits. So simple fruits, aggregate fruits, and multiple fruits. So here you can see simple fruits are again broadly classified into fleshy fruits, dry fruits, and again dry fruits into dehiscent and indehiscent. Moving on, as I said, classification: simple fruits, aggregate fruits, and multiple fruits. Simple fruits are again broadly classified into simple fleshy fruits and simple dry fruits. What is the reason for classifying simple fruits into simple fleshy? The pericarp is edible. The whole pericarp is fleshy. Here the pericarp will not be fleshy. For example, like we have fleshy fruits like mango and tomato. What do you mean by dry fruit? Dry fruits are again of here the dry, that is the pericarp is not edible and it is dry. So here dry dehiscent and dry indehiscent. Here when the pericarp dehisces, opens, breaks open upon attaining maturity. So hence the name dry dehiscent fruit. This is called dry indehiscent fruit. Here you can take the example for dry dehiscent fruit. You can take an example of lady's finger, then cotton, hibiscus. What do you mean by dry indehiscent? Even if the fruit on attaining maturity, the pericarp will not dehisce, will not break open. Example like cashew and castor. Moving on to aggregate fruits. Aggregate fruits develop from polycarpellary. I think you remember more than 5 carpels. Apocarpus means what? The carpels are free, they are not fused. Fruits that develop from polycarpellary apocarpus ovary, such fruits are called as aggregate fruits. You can take a classical example of Michaelia champaka. Then multiple fruits. What are multiple fruits? Fruits that develop from an inflorescence. Fruits that develop from an inflorescence are called as multiple fruits. Example, you can take the example of jackfruit. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಹಲಸಿನ ಹಣ್ಣು, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟವಾಗಂಥ ಒಂದು ಹಣ್ಣು ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ಜಾಕ್ ಫ್ರೂಟ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಆಫ್ ಫ್ರೂಟ್ಸ್. ಐ ರಿಪೀಟ್, ದ ಹೋಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫ್ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಬ್ರಾಡ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈಡ್ ಇಂಟು 3 main types called simple fruits, aggregate fruits, and the multiple fruits. So simple fruits are again broadly classified into simple fleshy fruits, simple dry fruits. And simple fleshy fruit, you can give an example of mango and tomato. And dry fruits into dry dehiscent and dry indehiscent based on the nature of the pericarp, whether it dehisces on attaining maturity or not. Dry dehiscent and dry indehiscent. For dry dehiscent, you can give an example of hibiscus, cotton, then lady's finger. Dry indehiscent, even on attaining maturity, the pericarp, the outermost fruit ball will not dehisce. Example, cashew and castor. Aggregate fruits are the fruits which develop from polycarpellary apocarpus ovary. Example, Michaelia champaka, sampage ho. Then multiple fruits, fruits that develop from an inflorescence is called as a multiple fruits. Example, you can take the example of jackfruit. Moving on to the simple fruit. As I said, a fruit, here you can see the lemon, then you can see the mango, then here you can see tomato. All these are fruits. For example, like tomato, we don't call it as a fruit, we call it as more or less as a vegetable. Vegetables are also fruits, fruits are also vegetables. The only difference is fruits we don't cook and eat. They are edible, they are digestible as you eat the fruits, but certain vegetables you need to cook and eat for easy digestion, right? So here, what is simple fruit? A fruit that develops from monocarpellary, polycarpellary, syncarpous ovary. Monocarpellary means single carpel. Polycarpellary means that is more carpels. Syncarpous, fused carpels. Then mango, lemon, orange. Then, as I said, simple fruits into fleshy fruits and dry fruits. Here, the fruit in which the pericarp is fleshy and juicy. That's what I said. The pericarp is fleshy and juicy, and the whole fruit is edible. Like, for example, tomato. Tomato is called as berry, or it is also called as becca. Berry or becca. Here, tomato, the whole fruit is edible. So you call it as a fleshy fruit. Even mango, but the inside seed we throw, right? But the pericarp and the mesocarp is fleshy and juicy. Example, mango and tomato. Dry fruit, as I said, the fruit in which the pericarp is dry upon maturity. Based on the dehiscing of the pericarp, we classify them into dry dehiscent and dry indehiscent fruit. Hope you have understood what is simple fruit. A fruit that develops from monocarpellary, polycarpellary, syncarpous ovary. Then simple fruits are broadly classified into simple fleshy fruits and simple dry fruits. What are fleshy fruits? Here, the fruit in which the pericarp is fleshy and juicy. Here in dry fruit, example is what? Mango and tomato. Dry fruit, the fruit in which the pericarp is dry upon maturity. See how beautiful these fruits are. Even lemon also is a fruit, but more or less we call it as a vegetable. Moving on to the dehiscent. As I said, it is a dry fruit in which the pericarp dehisces, breaks open upon maturity. As I said, when it matures, it will open. For example, you might have seen a lady's finger, cotton, they just open up, the locules open. So dehiscent means what? It is a dry fruit whose pericarp dehisces, breaks open upon maturity. Example, I said, lady's finger, datura, hibiscus, cotton. Then dry indehiscent, even on attaining the maturity, the pericarp will not open. So it will not dehisce. Dehiscing means what? Opening. So whose pericarp never dehisces upon maturity. Already I explained cashew and castor. Aggregate fruit, already I said, a fruit that develops from polycarpellary, syncarpous ovary. Example, Michaelia champaka. Multiple fruits, a fruit that develops from an inflorescence is called as what? It is called multiple fruit. Example, you can take an example of jackfruit. All these are the different, here you can see in the beautiful video about all these fruits, right? Moving on to the next concept, the seed. So we have learnt about fruit. As I said, the ovary develops into fruit and the ovules develop into seed. So you can call seed as what? A developing embryo. Here you can see the seeds. Seed is called as a developing embryo. Developing embryo. And without, see, now we have a concept that we need to sow a seed to get a plant, but with the technology, particularly with biotechnology, with tissue culture, you can grow a plant from any part of a plant body other than seed. That is what is technology. This is how the science and technology has improved to a greater extent. But seed is very, very important part of a plant body. So what do we call, how do we define the seed as? Seed is defined as a post fertilization product of ovule. What do you mean by post? After. Pre means before. So how do we define the word called seed? Seed is a post fertilization product. And I think all of us know, whenever in everyday life we come across seed. See, as I said, most of the things we come across in our daily life. Whatever you are studying, I think all these examples, everything what I am giving, in everyday life we come across. Only things maybe we have not have observed carefully. So when you make the careful observations, you will understand all these concepts. Hope all of you know that seed. I think when we make a curry out of these seeds, we soak the seeds overnight. Sometimes we remove the seed coat. So what is, as we know that seed is covered by two walls, or what we call it as integuments, namely outer wall called testa and inner wall called tegment. As I said, these are called as what? Two integuments. So seed is made up of what? Testa and tegmen. Testa is what? Outer wall, and tegmen is what? Inner. So and seed, I think all of you know that the development of the seed, it will not start its germination unless it makes sure that endosperm is formed. So a zygote, as I said, will not develop into an embryo until unless endosperm is formed. But as you know, endosperm is nothing but a reserve food material. It is a reserve food material. So endosperm is a reserve food material. Sometimes a seed completely utilizes the endosperm before fertilization, before seed germination. Such seeds are called as non-endospermic seeds. There are some seeds which will retain some amount of endosperm for seed germination. It will not completely utilize the whole of the endosperm. Such seeds are called endospermic seeds. So seeds are of two types: endospermic and non-endospermic. What do you mean by endospermic? Endosperm is retained. Sperm is retained for what? For seed germination. Here, endosperm is completely utilized. Completely utilized before seed germination. Before seed germination. Before seed germination itself, the endosperm is completely utilized. So what is a seed? Try to understand, each and every word is important. What is a seed? Seed is a post-fertilization product of ovule. And a seed is covered by how many integuments, or what you call it as layers? Two wall layers. What are they? Outer wall called testa and inner wall called tegmen. And seeds are of two types. What are they? Endospermic seed and non-endospermic. Endospermic seed can also be called as what? Albuminous. AL. And this can be called as what? X-albuminous. Albuminous, X-albuminous. What do you mean by albuminous endospermic seed? That is, some seeds will retain the endosperm for seed germination. It will not completely utilize. Such seeds are called as endospermic seed. And for example, like some seeds will completely utilize the endosperm before seed germination, and such seeds are called non-endospermic seed. So classical example for endospermic seed is maize, and for non-endospermic seed is bean. Endospermic is also called as what? Albuminous seed, and non-endospermic seed is also called as what? X-albuminous. Hope you have understood what is seed, what are the two wall layers or outer layers of the seed, what are the two layers of seed, and you have understood, I think, what is endospermic and non-endospermic seed. You will understand better with the example, like when we study the structure. I think seeds are of two types: dicot seed and monocot seed. What do you mean by a dicot seed and a monocot seed? A seed which has two cotyledons. Here you can see it is two cotyledons. What is cotyledon? It is a reserve food material. Here you can see the plumule and you can see the radicle. So as soon as you sow a seed, it germinates, it sprouts. So one part of the seed develops into root system, that is the radicle, and one part of the seed develops into shoot system, that is the plumicle. And what is that which supplies food for that is the cotyledon, the reserve food material. So what do you mean by a dicot seed? A seed which has two cotyledons is called as a dicot seed. What do you mean by a monocot seed? A seed which has only one cotyledon is called as monocot seed. Like all cereal crops like maize, ragi, barley, wheat, they all come under monocots. All leguminous you might have come across, groundnut, pea, they all come under dicot seeds. Now let us understand. Here you can see the dicot seed, the structure of a mature dicot seed, and here you can see how the whole part of a dicot seed is shown here. So this is the plumule, this is the radicle, and these are the cotyledons. And here you can see the hilum, the attachment. Hilum is the point where the seed is attached to the placenta. So in the previous session we have studied, and here you can see the seed coat. Here you can see a small opening called micropyle. This is a small opening. I think all of us know, when we soak seeds overnight, all the water is absorbed by the seed, it bloats. And morning we don't see any of the water in the vessel, and the seed would have bulged. How is it possible? How does the water enters the seed? It is through this minute opening. This is called as a minute opening, which is called as micropyle. So the water enters the seed through micropyle, and this is very important. When you sow a seed, it germinates. I think all of us know, without water it will not germinate. And how does the water from the soil enter the seed? Through this micropyle. In a similar way, when we soak the seeds overnight, I think we can see the water has absorbed. And I think all of you know, seed coat is hydrophilic. It has more affinity towards water and it absorbs, right? So now let us see what is this dicot seed all about. The outermost covering of a seed is called as what? Seed coat, as I said. This is called as seed coat, and the seed coat, as I said, has two layers. Outer layer called testa and inner called tegnum. And I think hilum, as I said, this is the hilum. So when you remove the seed, for example, like ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರೆಕಾಳು ಬಿಡಿಸುವಾಗ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಕಿತ್ತಿದಾಗ ಆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪಾಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಮಾರ್ಕಿಗೆ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ as hilum. Hilum is nothing but the scar. So hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. So when it is attached to the fruit, you remove it. So that point of attachment, that scar, is called as hilum. So what is hilum? The hilum is a scar, mark on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Then, as I said, above the hilum there is a small opening called micropyle, and this micropyle has a great role to play, and the means of absorption of water by the seed is mainly through this small opening called micropyle. Then within the seed coat, as I said, is the embryo, consisting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. And at the end of the embryonal axis, you can see one end, you can see plumule, which develops into shoot, and one end you can see the radicle, which develops into what? It develops into root. Hope you have understood the structure of a dicot seed. So in a similar way, we can also understand the structure of a monocot seed. As I said, a dicot seed has how many cotyledons? Two cotyledons. Here you can see cotyledon number 1 and 2. Monocot seed has only one cotyledon. Moving on to a monocotyledonous seed. I think all of us might have come across a classical example of a maize seed, right? Generally, monocotyledon seeds are endospermic. As you have studied, some amount of endosperm is retained for what? For germination. But some in orchids, they are non-endospermic. Though orchid is a monocot, but sometimes it is non-endospermic. So in the seeds of cereals, as I said, cereal crops such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and fused within the fruit wall. Hope you can come across, like in maize you can see a small sheathy base, like, right? Now here the endosperm is bulky and stores what? Reserve food material. Here you can see this is the endosperm and this is the developing embryo. Here you can see the endosperm, and the cotyledon of monocot is called as scutellum. Here the cotyledon is called scutellum. This diagram is very, very important from examination point of view. Definitely this diagram is going to appear for your exam. So try to learn the diagrams. I keep telling always that diagrams are very, very important. Only thing is you need to practice. Once or twice if you practice, definitely you will be able to draw the diagrams, beautiful diagrams. And as I said, not only drawing the diagrams, remembering the parts, labeling the parts is very, very important. And you draw the diagram and forget to label the parts, then it is of no use. So unlabeled diagrams carry 0 marks. So here you can see the seed coat, and you can see the alurine layer, then the scutellum and coleoptile, which is going to develop into shoot tip, and coleorhiza, which is going to develop into a shoot tip, root tip. Here you can see the radicle and the plumule. So this is about the monocot seed. So as I said, the seeds of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and fused within the fruit wall, and the endosperm is bulky and stores food. So this is the picture of a monocot seed. Here we can see the outer covering of the endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called alurine layer. This is called the alluring layer. So what is the alluring layer? The outer covering of the endosperm. This is the endosperm. As I said, the endosperm in case of monocot is called as what? Scutellum. Right? So the outer covering of the endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called alluring layer. And here you can see the embryo is small and situated at the groove, situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. So here you can see the embryo. So the embryo is small and situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. So the endosperm consists of one large shield shaped cotyledon. Here you can see the cotyledon, right, known as scutellum. As I said, the cotyledon in case of monocot is called as scutellum, and a short axis with a plumule and a radicle. Here you can see this is the plumule and a radicle. Then the plumule and the radicle are enclosed in sheaths which are called coleoptile and coleorhiza respectively. As I said, the root tip and the shoot tip. Here you call it as this as the shoot tip and this as the root tip. Even this diagram, as I said, monocot seed and dicot seed with the explanation is very important from examination point of view. Hope you have understood all the concepts about what is fruit, what is a seed, what are the types of seed. Then you have studied about a dicot seed and a monocot seed. Hope you have understood all the concepts. Please, dear students, concentrate on the diagrams. Very, very important in biology, as well as the concepts. Try to explain the concepts with suitable diagram. So I'll be back with some more concepts of this chapter called Morphology of Flowering Plants. Till then, goodbye and thank you.